Welcome to another edition of From the Press Box here every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., part of the Sports Talk family, which is Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., with an additional Sports Talk show 10 p.m. to midnight on Tuesday. Well, we're the first one of the week. My name is Rob Leonard, and joining me, of course, as always, is my brother and award-winning sports writer, Tim Leonard. Hello, brother. How you doing?
Good morning, brother. Outstanding here. How about yourself?
I'm feeling good. I don't know where we should start, brother. The Giants actually got a win, or should we start with the Mets? I'll let you choose.
We got to go G-Men. A win is a rare thing in these parts in the NFL.
With the Giants, yeah. I mean, yeah. So, the Giants won.
The Jets too, brother. All NFL.
Well,
even more rare.
I'm sure there's a bet somewhere in Vegas that the Jets lose all 16 games this year. Yes. I might take that bet.
I would love to take that bet. I would love to get some odds.
Yeah,
I'll give you a quick story, brother, because I don't want to labor on the Jets. Yesterday, I was watching. I guess it was some on ESPN. I don't remember what show it was, and they had your old pal, brother, Rob Tannenbaum.
Yes, my old pal. Yes, of course.
Your old buddy.
Yes.
And he actually had the nerve to say that he didn't think the Jets were going to go 0-16 because he's looked at the schedule and he can see a win. And I was like, where's the win? Who does he think they're going to beat? Because I've looked at that schedule. I've looked at it more than a couple of times. There isn't a win on it. So I don't know where Mr. T, as they like to call him, which is just the most ridiculous nickname maybe in pro sports history. But I'd love to know where he thinks the win is. Or more than a win. He's insane.
You know, he probably just said it because he needed something to say. I mean,
there's no win on that schedule.
No, I agree with you. And
there's no talent on that roster.
Right. And it's going to be an interesting thing when they get to 0-15 in that last game where no one's going to care probably, and maybe they win by mistake or something. I don't know.
Well, as far as the fans already don't care anymore. The only thing the fans care about at this point is getting Trevor Lawrence.
Right, but as we've mentioned before, I mean, this season's actually been pretty good. The fact that there's no fans in the stadium.
Yeah,
the home games.
We'll get to that later, bro. Like I said, I didn't want to spend a lot of time on the Jets right now because they don't deserve it.
We're going to later. Okay, let's start off. The Giants won over the Washington football team.
How about that?
23-20.
Gee, man.
They won their second game of the season.
Who was first win against, brother?
What?
Who was the first win against?
I believe it was the Washington football team.
That's right. The only team they can beat.
Well, I was watching one of the highlight shows, and it doesn't say Washington football. It said football team. I was like, what? It should have said Washington. At least say Washington, so you know where they are.
Their IDs for all the teams must be their nickname, and Washington this year is football team, which is kind of ridiculous. I mean, they should fix it or do something with it, but it's style is style, as some places like to believe.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Daniel Jones played okay. Good, not great, but good. Yeah, I guess the best way to describe him.
Brother, the thing we've been talking about with our local football teams over the last, I'd say, month or so, is finding the positives. And the issue that I have with Daniel Jones, much as I have a similar issue with Sam Darnold, is at least Daniel Jones has some talent around him. The bar is at this point so low because the expectations are so low.
Right.
But as I was reviewing material for the show and putting together the notes, I found myself saying that you know what, it was a good game for the Giants because Daniel Jones didn't turn the ball over. And I started to realize, much like I do with the Jets and much like you do with the Jets, is that it's such an embarrassingly low bar. Because Daniel Jones, his job is to not turn the ball over. And yesterday's game, if memory serves, was only the second time in his career where he's gone through an entire game without a turnover. And that's terrible. And I found myself looking at game film and seeing there was a hit, brother. I don't know if you were watching the game, if you were able to see the whole game. But there was a hit where Daniel Jones went back. He was in a pocket. It was right around 2 minutes left in the game, maybe like 2:10.
Right.
And I don't know the Washington player, but Daniel Jones got crushed. He was back in the pocket. His line collapsed around. I can't even fault Daniel Jones for this because usually it's he doesn't really have a sense of time around, in the pocket, and it's a bad thing for him. But he got crushed from the blind side. And normally that is a play where Daniel Jones fumbles and the other team recovers and the Giants wind up being screwed. And in fact, the last 2 weeks, the last two games before yesterday, that's how the Giants lost, were fumbles in the last couple minutes of the game, Giants' last possession. And as soon as Daniel Jones lost the ball, the game was over. And I found myself saying, you know what? This was one of Daniel Jones' best plays of the game because he didn't fumble.
Right.
And he didn't completely screw that up because now the Giants could at least punt the ball away and pin Washington back and play the field position game and have all of that happen. But then I'm sitting there thinking, why? That shouldn't be known as a great play. That just because your quarterback didn't fumble like he so often does. Daniel Jones has more turnovers in his time in the league, which is 2 years. He has more turnovers in the NFL than any other player. So I still don't know. I know it's early still, and I know it's only his second season, but I still, like I said, the day he was drafted, I don't see this guy as being the quarterback of the future and the guy who is going to be the guy who turns it around.
So basically what you're saying is you're so desperate to find something good to point out about Daniel Jones that you'll go with this.
Well, I mean, it was, in theory, it was a good play just because of how, I mean, like I said, he got destroyed. And normally on a hit like that, and especially for Daniel Jones on a hit like that, what results is the ball on the ground, and usually the other team recovers. And yesterday it didn't, and I couldn't believe it. I was stunned that he got hit as hard as he got hit, and from the blind side, and I was just absolutely stunned that the ball didn't come out. And I don't know why it didn't, but I was happy it didn't. I was actually saying, maybe he finally figured out how to keep the ball and how to hang on to the ball. I doubt it, but maybe. We'll have to see. We'll have to see the next time he gets crushed. But that was a surprising aspect to the game, and it actually helped the Giants win because that one play, Daniel Jones hanging onto the ball right then in that situation, it was worth at least 40 yards, if not more, because that wasn't a turnover right then, and it was a key moment in the game because that was right after Jabril Peppers had intercepted Alex Smith. Alex Smith threw the ball a little bit high, the ball got tipped, and Jabril Peppers intercepted, and it was with 2.5 minutes left. And the offense, then right after that, the offense held on to the ball for all of 16 seconds.
Right.
Which is absurd. You got to bury the game right there. All you need is a first down, and basically the game is over. And the Giants couldn't even do that. 16 seconds they held the ball. So Washington got the ball back, and then Alex Smith, who I thought played a fantastic game yesterday, for a guy who has barely played in the last 2 years because he's had 19 surgeries on his leg. The leg that they almost had to amputate after he had a tibia fibula fracture, known as the tib fib, which is normally career-ending. Yeah, you remember that play a couple of years ago? His leg, he got crushed.
All right, I remember that, yeah.
He had like a Theismann done to his leg. But he came back 2 years, 19 surgeries, and he played earlier this season for a few snaps and got in the game and actually did pretty well. Well, yesterday he had to come in pretty early because the guy who's been starting for the Washington football team, Kyle Allen, he got injured. But Smith was outstanding. Smith was like the old Alex Smith, the guy who was leading teams and was a legitimate quarterback in this league. He wound up going 24 for 32 for 325 and a touchdown. When was the last time a Giants or Jets quarterback put up those numbers? And this is a guy doing it on a leg that almost had to be amputated 2 years ago.
Right.
All right. So, good for Alex Smith. I was happy to see it. I was kind of hoping the Giants would win, but the flip side of that is, the Giants now are behind Dallas and I think they're behind the Cowboys and the Redskins now for the draft pick. So they cost themselves a couple spots in the draft yesterday with that win.
But isn't the NFC East really continues to be the worst division in football? And if the Giants actually went on a run, they could actually be in first place if everyone else plays as crappy as they've been playing.
Put it this way, brother. Yesterday was the Giants' second win of the season, and
right.
for a few minutes, I thought they were in first place. That's how bad the division is. Currently, and I'm going according to the ESPN standings. Currently, the Philadelphia Eagles are in first place in the NFC East with a 3-4-1 record. Wow. Now they have the Giants listed in last place at 2-7 behind the Cowboys, and I'll assume that that goes by head-to-head record because the Giants did lose to the Cowboys. And Washington is 2-6, which is why they're in second place because they have one fewer loss because they played one fewer games. But yesterday was somewhat encouraging for the Giants. I'll give them that. I liked how they played yesterday. First half was fantastic. They looked good. They moved the ball. They forced turnovers. The Giants forced 5 turnovers yesterday, which obviously is something that should win you a football game pretty easily. They were up 20-3 at halftime, and managed to hang on to win the game 23-20. I don't know if we mentioned the final score, but that was the final score. So obviously the second half wasn't the best half of football, but they figured out how to close out a win. So there are things that we should give them credit for.
Right.
Was it a spectacular game? No. Was Daniel Jones spectacular? No. Daniel Jones did enough to win, but he wasn't the best quarterback on the field, which means that he wasn't better than Washington's third-string quarterback, because that's what Alex Smith is these days. He's still on the big contract that he signed several years ago, and he's finishing that out. And I don't know what his next move will be as far as his NFL career, but Washington is still paying him, so he's still playing. But the Giants need Daniel Jones to be better, and I don't know if Daniel Jones is ever going to be better. And that's the issue right now.
Well, the thing about Daniel Jones, if I'm him, he comes in, he's considered a big shot coming in, and he hasn't really lived up to that. He's got how many games left, to prove that he might be worth something. Whether he gets traded or they keep him and they decide to keep him as the starting quarterback still, he has basically till the end of the season to prove himself. And I think he realizes. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know, but I hope he realizes it. He has until the end of the season to.
He might have longer. It's only a second season, so
yeah. But what?
He's got longer.
Are you happy with him? No,
I'm not. I'm not really happy with him, just based on the turnovers, and really because he hasn't shown the ability to take over a game. And I'm not saying, hey, you got to be Patrick Mahomes or you need to be anybody like that, but look at some of the rookie quarterbacks this season. Look at Justin Herbert. Here's a guy who he wound up coming in to start because the Chargers quarterback got hurt, or
right.
He had some kind of lung issue. Like the team trainer somehow punctured his lung and he had to go to the hospital. So he literally found out he was starting 10 minutes before a game. and he still came out and threw for 300 yards. And we don't see performances like that from Daniel Jones. In fact, we don't see him from Sam Darnold either. But for my thoughts, Sam Darnold doesn't have anything around him. You know, Daniel Jones has receivers. You know, he's got Golden Tate, and we'll talk about Golden Tate a little more in a minute. But he's got Golden Tate, and he's got Darius Slayton, and he's got Sterling Shepard. You know, he's got receivers. And he's got a pretty decent offensive line. I mean, the Giants' offensive line is not great by any means, but they're okay anyway. So Daniel Jones should be showing improvement. He should be showing that he is a guy. You know, I mean, part of the problem for him is that people are judging him on the spot where he was drafted, and he was a 6th overall pick, and people have to judge him because that's where he was picked. But because Dave Gettleman made that mistake, that's unfair to Daniel Jones. He should have been picked somewhere. You know, like if the Giants would have picked him with their 2nd pick in that draft, which was I want to say 15. You know, then the expectations aren't so great. Because
that's true, but you know, someone else could have picked him up beforehand. You know,
they wouldn't have though. The way that draft went, that was 6 was ridiculous, and we all said it at the time. You and I had this conversation after the draft 2 years ago. What were the Giants thinking? What was Dave Gettleman thinking? Why would he pick this quarterback at that high when nobody else was going to pick him that high? So,
yeah, that's true.
And it's a little bit unfair to Daniel Jones, but again, if you're picked in that spot, there is a certain expectation on performance, and we haven't seen it thus far from Daniel Jones.
So
I'll give him credit for getting the Giants a win yesterday, and we move on.
And like if the Giants go on a run, they could win the division. Like they could win 7-9. And, you know, the way this division is. And, you know, this division used to be a good division. So
used to be one of the elite divisions in football.
Yep.
And now it's I mean, it's not only the worst division in the NFL. It's and I don't say this for any hyperbole purposes. It's one of the worst divisions ever in professional sports. I mean, think about it. The first place team is 3-4.
Yeah.
That's a historically bad division in sports when the first place team doesn't even have a 500 record.
I agree.
That's bad. I mean, there's no other way to say it. That's bad. Usually a division will have at least one good team. The Patriots made a living for the last 20 years about being the only good team in the AFC East. It's been like that. It was like that for Brady and Belichick's entire run in the AFC East.
Yeah, look what's
the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Bills were rarely above 500.
No, you're right.
So that's at least there was one good team in the division. This division has some of the worst teams in the league. You're going to see most likely you're going to see the Giants, the Jets, and Washington among the top 7 or so teams in the draft. That's how bad the division is.
Anyway, let's quickly talk about Golden Tate. He wants to be released. He wants to sign with a team that might be doing better than the Giants. He did not play Sunday. What's going on?
Well, last week, Golden Tate caught a touchdown pass against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football, and his response to that was to go to the camera and put his face in the camera and start shouting, "Throw me the ball." He made, he kind of upstaged his quarterback, which is never.
You know what I heard, brother? He originally was going to say, "Give me the damn ball," but Keyshawn said, "No, I own the trademark."
Yes, Keyshawn told him. Keyshawn probably said to him, "Hey, don't steal my line," because Keyshawn, he's protective of that stuff. But to make matters worse, Golden Tate's wife, Elise, decided to use social media to add a little more fuel to the fire. And Golden Tate later liked somebody else's tweet that suggested that he be cut and given the opportunity to sign elsewhere. And this is where, I tell you what, I thought Joe Judge really showed that he is becoming a good NFL coach. This is the kind of thing that normally for a first-year coach, this would turn into a mess. And Joe Judge wasn't having any of it. And I liked Joe Judge before this, but this week he very much grew on me as a guy who knows what he's doing, even though he's only a first-year coach. And his decision to sit Golden Tate and to not play him against Washington tells me that maybe it's the only good decision the Giants made this season, but they made a good decision with Joe Judge. Even though the record is terrible, you know, as Bill Parcells once famously said, you know, you got to be able to shop for the groceries, and the guy who's shopping for the groceries for the Giants right now isn't doing Joe Judge any favors. But Joe Judge, he basically told Golden Tate to stay. That was Bill Parcells' line, bro.
I know that. I never heard it before.
Yeah, no, that was a good line. But Joe Judge told Golden Tate, a veteran receiver, a guy who's on a big contract, he told him stay home. He told him, we don't need you because we don't need that kind of divisiveness on our team. We don't need a receiver showing up our young, still developing, still maybe lacking some confidence quarterback that you know, get me the ball. We don't need that kind of selfishness. You know, I mean, let's face it, the Giants are not a team of stars. And for Golden Tate to try to embarrass his quarterback and make it about him as opposed to making it about the team, which is something that Joe Judge has been preaching since day one.
Right.
That did not fly. And so Wednesday, Golden Tate was working the scout team. and then, you know, a couple days later, they told him, hey, you know, you're not playing this week. And I don't know if that affects his check. I don't think it does, but I don't know for sure. I assume.
Well, if the team sits him down, I don't think it affects his check.
Right.
You know, if he decides,
I don't know if I didn't see any reports about a fine or anything, but maybe there was. They said they were going to handle it internally. So,
well, I think if you sit someone on your decision as a team, then you know that's your decision.
He still gets paid. I'm talking mostly about a fine. I'm not talking about a game check or anything, but I'm talking about whatever it was. Was there a fine involved? Because I know that Joe Judge sat Golden Tate down early in the week, and they had a conversation, and I'm sure Judge told them, look, we can't have this, and you know, I'm not going to be afraid to sit you down or dole out some punishment because you did something that especially a veteran should know not to do.
Right.
And Golden Tate, it was all about him. And he's 32 years old. He's been in the league for a lot of years. He should know that's not how you handle things. And if you want to get traded, you know, his contract is bloated for what he does and his performance at this point in his career. So, you know, could the Giants have traded him before Tuesday's deadline? Maybe. But what team wants to pick up that kind of money?
Right. And what does he bring to what team needs a guy like him right now? And I'm not sure any team needs a guy like him.
I mean, a team that's desperate for a receiver. I mean, could the Jets use him? Yeah, they could.
Yeah, but the Jets aren't going to the playoffs this year, so there's no reason to make the deal.
Right. That's what I was about to say, that he wouldn't help the Jets because the Jets it's a lost cause. But is there a contender out there that needed a receiver? I don't know. I didn't really look at it. But that's the situation that Golden Tate is in. But that same team would look at his contract and say, well, what, you know, we're not gonna, why are we going to take that on? He's not that much of a difference maker anymore.
Right. Anyway, Jets and Pats tonight. Sam Darnold's not playing.
Nope.
Flacco is playing. I hope Flacco gets a little bit closer to Montana for total yards for a lifetime.
Yes, you go Montana, not the state, brother, right?
Yes, of course. And so I'd like to see that. At least there's a reason to watch this game.
There's not much of a reason to watch this game, brother. I mean, Mr. Schedule Maker, the infamous Mr. Schedule Maker, did not do us any favors by scheduling the Jets and the Patriots on Monday Night Football. Of course, nobody really could have predicted the absolute disaster that both teams have turned into, because I'm not letting the Patriots off the hook with their atrocious record.
Well, this is why I hated that they did in baseball even last year and football also. They set the schedules too early. and they
have to for travel reasons. So
yeah, but they can set it up where, okay, we know this team next year is going to stink, and or maybe we don't put them on Monday night. I know there's contractual things that you can only be on Monday night or Sunday night so many times in a year, and but this is going to be a bad game, man.
It's going to be a really bad game, and I assume that this game. I assume that the thought was, and especially the Jets. Remember, they finished well last year, even though the schedule was garbage, but they finished well. So nobody expected the Jets to be 0-8 at this point, and I think that this game is probably more so because the Patriots are the Patriots. Right, and nobody ever expected them to be 2-5 going into their 8th game of the season. But that was the hope. All right, divisional rivalry. Jets are improving. The Patriots, all right, yeah, Tom Brady won't be around anymore, but Belichick's still there, so they'll still be good. And this game has turned into it's. I mean, if you're not an AFC East fan, you don't have any reason to watch this game tonight. In fact, if you are an AFC fan, you still don't have a reason to watch this game tonight. It's going to be a bad game. And, maybe that comes together and they wind up putting on a good show and it turns into a good game because both teams are so bad.
Right.
But the odds are against it. And you remember that the Giants-Eagle game a couple weeks ago, the Thursday night game?
Yeah.
It turned into a good finish, but only because the Giants blew it. The game was terrible. It was an ugly game to watch, but there was a dramatic finish to it.
Right, and imagine
that's
the
what
Giants
we hopefully will get. Yeah, well,
the Giants had won it. They'd be much closer to first place.
If the Giants had won that game, they would be 3-6 instead of 2-7, and they would be like a half a game behind the Eagles.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's that. The Giants have themselves to blame for that, but that kind of game is what we're going to get more than likely tonight because neither of these teams is any good, and all we can hope for is possibly a dramatic finish.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Cam Newton is playing awful for the Patriots right now. Joe Flacco, the last time he played for the Jets, got beat up and destroyed, and the Jets just showed that they're not a very good team, especially without Sam Darnold. But I don't have high hopes for this game. Let's put it that way.
No, and its ratings will probably be bad for ESPN. The game will be on Channel 11 for those who don't get ESPN, but
yippee.
We have cable. Channel 11's happy. Anyway, brother, you're listening to 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. From the press box is on your radio or your listening device, whether it's iHeartRadio, TuneIn.com, or Alexa. The show becomes a podcast later on Spreaker.com, among other places. Just look around. Just type in From the Press Box podcast. It'll come right up. Anyway, brother, Steve Cohen officially took over the Mets on Friday.
Brother, before we move off the Jets and go to the Mets, I just wanted to point out, I wanted to give Joe Douglas some credit because I can't give him any credit for his player acquisitions. But Joe Douglas this week, I give him credit. He did an interview. I believe it was on the Michael Kay show. I'll give Michael Kay a little credit for this. Joe Douglas took credit for the state of the Jets. And I give him credit for that because the Jets are awful. Everybody knows the Jets are awful. And Joe Douglas put it out there that, hey, I'm the guy that put this team together, so this falls on me. And I give him credit for that because not a lot of people would be willing to do that and to put the blame on himself for what's going on. Like Adam Gase hasn't done it. Adam Gase points fingers and will blather on about anything else, but he really hasn't taken credit for being a bad coach and for not developing Sam Darnold.
I don't expect Adam Gase.
You should expect him to. Part of being in professional sports is not only just to take credit when things go well, but it's also to take the blame when they don't.
Yeah, but it's his first season. He wants to come back. He thinks he wants. Well, I assume he thinks he's coming back. So, that's what you want. It's probably easier for the general manager because it's better. He's not probably going to get fired at the end of the year.
He might.
So,
who knows?
I don't know.
If they decide they want to start from scratch and let I mean, I personally, I'm stunned that Adam Gase still has a job.
Oh, I am too, brother. I'm very shocked, but I'm at the same time, how many times can you do a restart on this team?
Well, they're probably going to do one when the draft comes. If they decide they're going to take the thing with the Jets that is absolutely petrifying for the Jets is that what if Trevor Lawrence pulls an Eli Manning and says, "Hey, you know what, Jets? I don't want to be anywhere near you. Like, this is not happening. I am not coming to you guys. I still got a year of college left, and if you say you're going to draft me, I'll just go back and play at Clemson."
Well,
and to say, "Hey, Jets, you better trade the pick. If your plan is to pick me, then you better trade the pick." That is petrifying.
That's a ballsy thing to do.
Well, but if that's what he does, that means the Jets then need to sign Sam Darnold to an extension. And we still have no idea if Sam Darnold is going to be a franchise quarterback. The more I see of Sam Darnold, the more I think that that's not going to happen. But as I have said week after week, it's impossible to judge him without with the players that they put around him. They have nothing around him. So
no, that's true.
So it's very difficult to evaluate him. But if Trevor Lawrence, and as is his right, because he still has another year left, he has leverage. If he tells the Jets, I don't want to play for your organization, and Trevor Lawrence is a product of the South. He was born and raised in the South. He plays at Clemson, which is definitely in the South. If he says, "Hey, I want to play for Jacksonville or Tampa Bay or whoever,"
whoever you want to go there.
Well, because it's in the South. He's a good old boy.
Atlanta,
but Atlanta's another possibility. But does he want to stay somewhere south? Which, let's face it, New York has decided not south.
That's true.
But he has the leverage where he could tell the Jets, not a chance. This is not happening. I am not coming to play for you. Your organization is a joke, and there's no way I'm spending the next 4 or 5 years of my career in a place where it's going to be a disaster until I can finally get my freedom and get out of there and sign with a decent team that's got a chance to win.
Right.
So
okay.
That is the Jets' biggest fear.
Okay, let's talk about the Mets. Steve Cohen officially took over this past Friday. Literally 5 minutes later, Brody Von Wagenen and Omar Minaya and a whole bunch of other people were gone. Not surprising. Though I thought Omar might stick around a little bit just as a advisor or a consultant because, hey, I have problems with Omar along the way, but you know what? He did okay for a couple of years. So, but I guess Steve Cohen says, you know what? It's just time for a clean sweep, and I don't blame him for doing what he did, and I look forward to it. He took a lot of stuff on Twitter this week from fans. What should we do? And a lot of people contributed, a lot of good stuff actually. So we'll see what happens with Uncle Stevie, as I think Met fans are going to be calling him, especially if they win.
I don't get that, but whatever.
Well, it was on a shirt that someone was wearing. It said Uncle Steve, and it was in Mets colors and Mets logo. And
I much prefer Uncle Roger, but that's my own thing. I will say Roger. This, brother. Uncle Roger, he's a YouTube guy. He's funny, very funny guy. Anyway,
oh, okay. Well, but anyway, Uncle Stevie, if he does it right, it's easy to come in. This reminds me of the Islanders when Charles Wang and Sanjay Kumar came in. Was it Kumar, Tim? Yeah,
sounds right.
And
he wasn't here that long.
Well, he went to jail.
Yes, exactly. But, so that's why I really don't feel the need to remember his name.
Yeah, that first season though was. I mean, the people at the Coliseum were cheering. They'd show the owner's box, and they'd be cheering these guys.
Of course, because they offered hope.
Right, and then and it sort of slid away after that a little bit after that first season because they got a Laviolette, and things.
The reality sets in, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, these guys don't really have the money to spend either.
Well, they had some money, but they just other things happened too. We know Uncle Stevie has the money, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, and baseball also has a softer salary structure than the NHL.
Right,
the NHL's salary cap is a hard cap. There's no getting around it. There's no creative ways to get around it like you can in the NBA and in Major League Baseball. I mean, Major League Baseball doesn't even really have a salary cap. They have a luxury tax. But
right.
if you want to spend in Major League Baseball, a team, if they wanted to, could have a $500 million payroll. There's nothing to prevent it. You'd have to pay a ton in luxury tax. But if your owner is worth $14 billion, he might not mind.
I know. That's what.
So, and I mean, look, I feel a need to continue to caution Met fans, because there are so many Met fans out there who seem to be under this delusional concept that Steve Cohen is just going to spend. And that is not.
No, I don't think he is. I agree with you. I think he's going to be a smart spender. I think you just can't come in and just throw $400 million around or $300 million, whatever. It just doesn't happen, especially the first season. I think the second season he'll actually spend more, because he'll figure out what's going on, and the first season you look around, you see where everything is, and I think he'll say, okay, we'll do this. I think what I think he's going to do a lot for the first season is make Citi Field more Met fan friendly instead of Dodger fan, Brooklyn Dodger fan friendly or New York Giants fan. That doesn't mean I don't want that National League history of those two teams gone. I don't, but I want to see so much Met stuff around. I want to walk in and just get knocked out by Met stuff. Well,
I mean, they can still do that and improve the team. I mean, let's put it this way. I think this is going to go one of two ways for the Mets, because this offseason is rather unique in the sense that teams want to save money. I would assume that every team lost money last year.
Right.
And normally I don't assume that, but obviously the 2020 season was not one for teams to make a profit. That being said, we don't know what's going to happen in free agency this year. And free agency in baseball is open, by the way. I mean, it's we
mentioned that last week.
Yeah. So teams are allowed to spend money. But I think that it would be a savvy team that would say, hey, we got the chance to get a few bargains this year. And COVID isn't going to last forever, and these financial situations aren't going to last forever. And at some point, fairly soon anyway, I hope, within the next 6 months anyway or so, we'll have a vaccine and we'll be able to put people in the ballpark again. And Steve Cohen's buying of the team means that fans will be excited and will want to buy tickets and come to games. So this offseason represents the possibility of finding some bargains in the in the Major League Baseball free agency market. And there are some really good players out there. George Springer obviously is one of them. And I've heard people say, oh, don't sign George Springer. He was part of those Astros teams. They cheated, blah, blah, blah. Hey, George Springer's a good ball player. And if you have a chance to get him for your team, you take it. You sign him. JT Realmuto is another guy who is one of the best catchers, if not the best catcher in baseball right now. How long of a contract do you sign him to? I don't know, because catchers obviously tend to break down earlier than other players do. But the Mets desperately need a catcher, and they need a good catcher. Who would have expected that Travis d'Arnaud would become one of the best catchers in baseball after the Mets released him? They didn't even trade him. They released him.
It's not the first time the Mets let go of someone or traded someone and they became great.
Well, Justin Turner. But and do they sign Trevor Bauer, who after having what I consider to be a Cy Young season? In fact, Bauer was one of 3 Cy Young finalists that were named last week, along with Jacob deGrom and Yu Darvish of the Cubs. But the Mets need to rebuild their rotation, because right now their rotation is deGrom and Noah Syndergaard, who's coming back from surgery, and 3 guys to be named later because I have no idea who they're going to be. Steven Matz might be one of them, but he was awful last year. Absolutely awful. So the Mets need 3/5 of a rotation still. So is Steve Cohen going to look at this offseason as a rare opportunity to sign some very good players on what might be bargain-type contracts?
Well, that's, I think, Sammy, one of the things we have to look forward to and figure out, and Uncle Steve's going to have to do the same thing.
Stop calling him that. Stop calling him that.
Why? I like it.
He's been the owner of the team for a few days.
That's why you call him Uncle Steve.
He hasn't done anything to be worthy
likable.
of being called Uncle Steve.
Anyway, brother. I think you have to figure out, well, the league has to figure out, not just Steve Cohen, but, what's going on with COVID? Will they have fans in the seats in April? That's going to be the major thing.
Highly unlikely.
Well, I agree, but at the same time, we will have a new president by then, and hopefully, working with scientists instead of, whatever, maybe we actually figure out how to at least contain it enough where you can fill a stadium. I think that's something that
I could see them going 25% capacity like they did in the playoffs. I could see that because that could probably be done safely, especially in stadiums that are outdoor stadiums. But the social distancing aspect could still be done in an indoor stadium. But I really don't see, especially for most of next season, I don't see anything more than 50% capacity, because even that is, you're starting to get a lot of people together.
I'm being positive. I'm hoping they figure it out, because that's part of it too. You don't want to, if your first season of owning a team, you're going to lose money, you might want to just hold some back and then wait for the season after.
$14 billion.
Well, you just said you didn't expect him to spend it all. That Met fans shouldn't expect it.
I don't expect him to spend it all, but he should be smart enough to know that if you can get a couple of bargains, and if you can sign a guy like Trevor Bauer to a contract that's maybe 3 or 4 years, I don't expect Bauer to sign a long-term deal. I don't expect him to lock himself up for 7 or 8 years, because of the statement that he made a while back that said he was going to go on 1-year contracts to maximize his value. I could see him. In fact, this year I expect him to sign a 1-year contract, because I think Bauer is smart enough to know that COVID's not going to last forever and he'll be able to get more money down the road. But he is the guy I expect to win the National League Cy Young Award. So that obviously makes him valuable. But how much is that value in an off season where the financial landscape is still compromised? So I think Cohen has the chance to lock some guys up to contracts that have value. Like Jacob deGrom's contract, it was $130 million or whatever it was. It's a great value.
Very much.
DeGrom is worth considerably more than the contract he signed. So that was one of the few good moves that Brodie Van Wagenen made as a GM, is that he locked up Jacob deGrom. He's as good as Garrett Cole, if not better, and he's being paid far less than Garrett Cole. So that is what they call a value contract, a team friendly contract. If you can sign players on deals that down the road will be seen in that way, then you're ahead of the game. And maybe you'll lose money for next season, but in 2022 and 23 and 24, all of a sudden now, those deals will be looked at as, wow, look at this. The Mets were smart. They signed these guys when they had the chance, and they could get them cheaper than they would under normal conditions. And that was a smart thing to do. I don't know if they're going to do that, but it's one way to go.
No, I agree.
They can just say, you know what? I don't, Steve Cohen can say, look, I don't want to lose tens of $1 million in my first year as an owner. And let's just be conservative and build a team. But, the Mets have also been put on the Francisco Lindor trade talks. They're acknowledged as a player for his services. I don't know that the Mets have enough to get him in their minor league system. But if that's even being discussed, then you go out and you do that. But to do that, then that means signing Francisco Lindor, because he is a free agent after the 2021 season. You don't trade for Francisco Lindor unless you will get him to commit to a long-term deal with your franchise. And that means 7 years, and it means $200-something million. He is a $30 million a year player. So to make that trade, you're going to have to give up prospects. And the Mets' 3 best prospects are all shortstops. So you could give up 2 of them and not really feel it, because that's your shortstop for most of the next decade.
Right.
So, would the Indians take some of the Mets prospects from? I don't know, but there are teams who are in better position to trade for a player of that magnitude based on the minor league systems they have.
Right.
So I don't necessarily see that happening, but I guess it's possible, because the Indians certainly want to move him before the season starts, and the Mets do have some good young shortstops that they could throw into a trade.
Yeah, that'd be a good deal. That would be a good deal. A couple of quick things before we get to the Yankees, brother. The NBA has announced that they're going to do a 72-game season starting on December 22nd. Of course, they have to have a draft before that, and we're what says November 9th, 2020. So we're talking about a quick draft and a quick signing area, and then quick training camp. So
no, the draft is November 18th, brother.
Okay, well,
November 9th. I don't know where you're getting.
No, but I said today is November 9th.
Yes, all right.
Yeah, so
I didn't hear you say today, but all right. But,
yeah, today is November 9th, 2020.
Yeah, the draft is in 9 days.
Right. So the signing and the camp, going to camp, is going to be very quick about who gets signed, and then starting practice and getting everyone ready, and especially for a team like the Knicks, who haven't played since March. Because they didn't even make the playoffs or anything else like that. So that's going to be difficult. It might take a little bit longer, but they won't have a lot of time. So
it's a lot in a very short period of time for NBA, especially the front offices. Never mind the players getting ready, because it feels like for most of the league that the league just ended, because it did just end. It just ended a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So. The NBA, we knew this was coming in some way, shape, or form. The NBA was very determined to have basketball by Christmas, much like the Major League Baseball was determined to have its season done by November, because they didn't want to be involved in the second wave.
Right.
I don't know how this is going to work out for the NBA, because I get what they want to do and what they're trying to do, and they're trying to get their schedule back to a normal time frame,
right?
And say, all right, we want to be done by the time we're usually done for a season. But I question this, because from what the scientists are saying, late December we're still going to be in this second wave, and COVID cases are only soaring at this point. Every state is going up in cases. So to sit here and say, well, in a month and a half, we're going to be playing basketball, it just seems...
Well, what gets me, I think one of the things they're thinking of, and I'm just under an assumption here, Christmas Day for the NBA has always been a big day.
Huge day.
A lot of people start watching basketball on Christmas Day, even though the season starts, sometime in October. So that could have been part of it. I would have waited till January. I agree with you. We don't know what's happening with COVID yet, but at the same time, they have a TV contract to get money from and to fill, and I think that's very important to the NBA, because they got a really good deal. And the 72-game season and 780, what's 82 or 84? I forgot which one. 82. So they only lose 10 games. That's not a bad thing. So it's close. And then the NHL. The NHL was talking about starting New Year's Eve. They're not going to be doing an outdoor game this year, which is unfortunate, because I always like the outdoor games. But, so we'll see what happens with it. I mean, it's those are the two that go the longest seasons. I mean, baseball goes longer, but baseball's not happening until April. So, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that.
also, brother, this was something that Major League Baseball talked about a while ago, and then kind of was quiet about it. No one thought about, but they are definitely still restructuring their minor leagues, and that means that Staten Island Yankees are not going to be around anymore. Is that the case?
That is the case, brother.
So New York
don't go to Staten Island if you want to see baseball.
Well, they built a stadium for that. So I mean, specifically for that league, and I mean it was a cheap stadium to build because there's no levels, but still, I mean, and that means there's no Brooklyn Cyclones, I guess.
The New York Penn League is gone.
Okay, but I think the Mets are going to have another team in Brooklyn.
The minor leagues have been contracted. They've gone from 160 teams to 120.
That's really bad, actually.
Yeah, it is bad because the New York Penn League, which I enjoyed. I liked going out to Coney Island and seeing the Mets, and I was out to Staten Island a couple of times to see the Yankees. More in a work capacity than in a fan capacity, but that stadium was also very easy to get to. But the Yankees announced a few days ago that they would move their AA team from Trenton to Somerset County in New Jersey, which is very, very much upset the people of Trenton. And they will move their high A team, which has been in Tampa for a long time. That team will now play in Hudson Valley, New York, a little bit upstate. And then now the Yankees, their lower A team will be located in Tampa. So that's where they're going to send rookies and draft picks and, first year players and those kinds of things. So Staten Island has been contracted with the demise of the New York Penn League. The Yankees also will eliminate their South Atlantic team, and that has been located in Charleston for the last, probably decade at least, if not more than that. And their rookie league team in Pulaski, which I don't even remember what state that was in. I think it was like it was somewhere out west, like one of the Dakotas or something like that. So basically their minor leagues will now be Scranton Wilkes-Barre for AAA, Somerset County AA, Hudson Valley High A, and Tampa Low A, and that's it. I mean, there's 4 teams. It used to be 6 or 7 teams. So I think it's unfortunate because I think I like minor league baseball. I think minor league baseball has been good for baseball fans.
Yes, I do too.
Let's face it, you have to think bigger picture, and there are places in this country that are nowhere near a major league stadium.
Right, and sometimes, let's be honest, Tim, you go to a Mets or Yankees game and you better bring 2 credit cards because it can get expensive if you really want to go crazy. Hey, I want to get, a couple of beers. I need a couple more hot dogs. Oh, my seats were $150, and they're not even special seats.
Right.
So, I think having a minor league is important because you do get to enjoy, like, how many people, it's not maybe as much now, but the Long Island Ducks, Independent League, Atlantic League, for years had sellouts every game.
Yeah.
Because it was something you could take your kids to. It was $8 a ticket or something like that. And, all of a sudden, hey, the kid, you don't have to go to Shea because the kid might not understand it. And plus, you're much closer, like at a minor league stadium. And the same with the Cyclones and the same with the Staten Island Yankees. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I don't get it. And all the stadiums that have gotten built that maybe aren't going to be used anymore, like Staten Island and I don't know about Brooklyn right now, but those all cost money. And someone's going to come in. Some independent leagues going to come in.
And communities built those stadiums. I mean, let's face it. It's not major league franchises that built those stadiums. Communities built those stadiums because they wanted minor league baseball in their communities, and then that's taxpayer dollars that were spent. I mean, I personally, I think we're going to see more independent leagues, and I think it's just an expense that Major League Baseball didn't want to pay. But when you're talking about the expense of running those franchises, it's so small compared to what running a Major League franchise costs. Right, obviously,
right.
But,
and
I just think I'll give you an example. Going out to Coney Island, the most expensive ticket was $15.
Right,
and that even sounds high for Class A New York Penn League baseball. but you could sit literally 3 rows off the field for $15. I did it. I did it with my guy Buscema. You know, we've gone out there. I went a couple of years ago. We got we went to Seinfeld Clock Day, which is one of the more creative promotions that they've had.
Right.
I got that Keith Hernandez alarm clock because they had a whole theme of stuff that day wrapped around the Seinfeld episodes with Keith Hernandez in them. But it was fun. I mean, not only were we watching baseball, but the whole day was a fun day.
Right, because they do a lot of giveaways and they do silly things like the Nationals picked up on like the running presidents, but they do that all over the place in minor league baseball. So. I mean, I hope they change their mind down the road, or at least some independent leagues come in and then changes their mind. What's happening? We don't know what's happening in the Birmingham Rumble Ponies or Binghamton Rumble Ponies.
Binghamton, yeah.
Binghamton. So the Mets haven't announced anything yet.
Well, I haven't seen any announcement from the Mets yet, but Binghamton is as far as I know is done. So there's going to be the Mets are a lot of teams have to restructure what's going on because they're going to want to move teams to different places. Like the Yankees, I understand why they're doing Hudson County because it's closer. But
right.
Tampa's been the Yankees' base for decades now. So that's why they wanted
the George Steinbrenner Stadium. So.
Right. The minor league team uses the Yankees facility. So now the lower A is going to do that because there's so much upheaval right now with the minor leagues. We're going to have to figure it out when it goes along because I don't even think baseball knows.
We should call the Rumble Ponies and see if we get a jersey.
Yes.
So anyway, Tim, we got about 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left. What do you want to talk about? DJ LeMahieu or NYCFC or Red Bulls?
I'll go through some stuff real quick, brother. DJ LeMahieu is planning to reject the Yankee qualifying offer and will become a free agent. LeMahieu obviously should expect to receive a big deal, and by big I mean 4 or 5 years and something in the $100 million range. He has been named one of 3 American League finalists for the MVP award, along with White Sox first baseman Jose Abreu and Indians infielder Jose Ramirez. So he is the only non-Jose candidate for that award. Yankees legend Don Mattingly was one of 3 finalists for the NL Manager of the Year award. I'm rooting for Donnie Baseball.
I hope so.
College football, brother. Notre Dame beat Clemson, number 1 Clemson, 47-40 in double overtime on Saturday. Clemson's 36-game regular season winning streak was broken. Trevor Lawrence did not play in that game because of COVID-19. Soccer, brother. NYCFC, your favorite team. They have finished 5th in Eastern Conference after a 4-3 win over Chicago. That puts them in the playoffs, the MLS playoffs, where they will face David Beckham's Orlando City SC in the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. Red Bulls beat Toronto 2-1 yesterday, and that put them into 6th place. They will face Columbus in the opening round.
Okay.
Anything else, brother? Would you like to know about the Premier League a little bit?
Let's let Big Ed get on early today. We'll get Big Ed. Big Ed's coming up next with the Good Gold Show at 10 o'clock, playing the oldies you don't hear on the radio anymore. Of course, Big Ed is a big guy. Let's be honest. Anyway, thank you for listening to From the Press Box here every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. I'm Rob Leonard. Joining me, of course, is Tim Leonard. And we'll see you next Monday. Thank you, Sean Novat, for keeping us on the air. Take care. Bye-bye.